Welcome to the Coop, my friend Marion Jones, fellow Tar Heel.
Yay, so excited. Have you had another Tar Heel in this chair?
You were my first Tar Heel.
Okay, first
Here
and
we
the
go.
last.
And truth be told, we are not teammates. We ran at different years, but we both ran track at the University of North
And you don't even
Carolina.
have to say that. We're like, once you, even if you didn't compete in a sport, like it's just family.
You were
It's
the
family.
Olympian, though. We're going to get into all of that. Okay, I think I carried the water. We are so excited to have you here. And we always start the Coop. One word to describe where you are in your life right now, Marion.
Just resilient. That one just resonates with me and like my supporters and my family. And it's just been a not so easy road. My journey is a perfect example for people who are like, I can't do this. For whatever reason, they're knocked down or they knock themselves down or whatever, but you don't have to stay there. You can come back and even stronger. Yeah.
That's such a huge point. I so admire people, but anybody that's been knocked down. And the irony is we all get knocked down at different levels, right? But the ones, the greats, the true champions, Marion, I feel like can lift themselves up. They're not defined by that.
Yeah.
And they sort of make their mess their mission and they move forward beyond inspiring. Tell me about your new podcast.
Oh, it's called Second Wind. And I have so much joy radiates for me when I get to talk about it because it is really a passion project. It's one that I've wanted to do for a long time. I love people. I love people's stories. And any way that I can bridge a gap between potentially mine and others in the hopes of inspiring people, it's what I wanted to do. So this project called Second Wind, and it's just as it sounds. It's entertainers, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, everyday heroes who have experienced some type of failure in their lives, and they are on their second wind in life. And it's been just remarkable to hear people's journeys. But like always, I'm telling my story. I know everybody knows my story. So finally, I get to like dive into someone else's story. That's a little bit refreshing.
I want to dive into your story. Not so much everybody knows the headlines, but what happened before and what happened after. But let's start with you as a little girl. What was little Marion Jones like? First of all, you had to win every like field day, like every running race. Were you chosen captain of every team?
The highlights as a kid was being chosen for my brothers. My brother's 5 years older than me. So that's everything. When he's 10, I'm 5. And that was probably the first time that I'm like, oh, okay. And he's picking me over his buddies.
Yes. By the way, in my neighborhood, the guy's name was John Quidley, and he was 3 years older, and he always picked me first. We'd play tackle football, and my nickname was Little Ferrari, and it meant the world to me. Shout out to John Quidley, again, to pick me over all the neighborhood boys, and I was 3 years younger.
Yeah.
Okay, so your brother would pick you at 5.
I was just, my mom would describe me as just an intense little girl. Always wanted to be into something, doing something. I loved every sport. My mom was a single parent, had my brother and I can remember soccer, gymnastics, until track and field reared its head. I think I was 6 or 7, a little community track and field meet. And it was a pivotal moment, I think, in my life, because back then they would have all the kids run different heats. And this was before I realized that you had to run fast, even if you were ahead, because it was all based off of time. If there was 20 heats of the 400, right? It's not, you don't get a medal just because you win your heat.
Because you won that. It's
I didn't understand that at 7. Okay. And so after all of the heats were done, I'm sitting in the middle of the field and they're saying, okay, girls age 7, 400 meters. And I'm just waiting there
like,
proudly. Like, let's start this.
Bring it in.
And I might have gotten a 3rd place ribbon and I just didn't understand. So I politely got up and I got my ribbon, walked up to the stands. I showed my stepdad and my mom. I was in tears. My stepdad walked me down for them to explain, and lesson learned. Like, just because you're ahead, you don't ease up.
Yep.
Right. And I remember throwing that ribbon in the trash because that's not what was going to define me at all. And just from there, everything blossomed. And I dabbled in basketball, then started to have a passion for that as well.
How instrumental were your stepdad and mom in sort of guiding you and setting you on the right path? You clearly had the championship spirit, but to put that in the right place.
So very important. My stepdad was a Dodger fan. Lakers fan, and that's where my passion for sport, watching it, like talking about it. He made a point to make me, after the games, the races, whatever was on television, he would make me sit and watch the post competition interviews, and he would point out the athletes that were humble. He would point out the athletes that were smart, or understood their craft and could communicate it in a way that came off very well. And I never understood why, but man, it absolutely made an impression.
He saw where you were going.
And my mom just was trying to like keep this fire of a child, so she doesn't just like kill herself, right? On the weekends, we'd ride our bike to the local elementary school, and I would climb on the roof and fall down and bust up my leg. I also grew up in Palmdale, which is about an hour and a half outside of Los Angeles. And there was this bike route for kids called the U. And they had this big dip, right? And I must have been 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, you go hit that jump.
Oh, my brother and I, it was like a mission. We would set it up for weeks. We would have our little backpack and our snacks, and we would say bye to my mom and our stepdad. There was a Kmart that she knew we would stop at to get a sip of water.
Yeah.
I think maybe I had $1 in my pocket. We might got some chips.
So great.
I would never, I'm thinking about that, with my kids.
As a mom now,
there is
no way.
No way in hell.
No way on all of this.
And even now I have Life 360 on their phones. I know where they are, and I'm still calling them and text messaging them.
Our parents couldn't find us if they wanted to. And you were literally outside from sunup to sundown, and then you got to be in for dinner.
And if you weren't, that's when y'all SHIT
in the middle,
hit the
it's
fan.
Go play in the traffic, they used to say.
Don't come inside. I remember,
do not come inside.
Do not come inside.
Yeah. So wait, did you hit the jump and something happened?
I'm sure I hit the jump. I'm sure I got scraped up, but I mean, the memories are incredible. I'll back up a little bit because at 9, my stepfather passed away.
Oh.
And my mom was forced again to be a single parent, which is a challenge. My mom would commute from Palmdale to Beverly Hills. And so that was a very hard time in my life. Also at that point, long before that, my biological father and my mother had divorced when I was 3. But up after my stepfather passed, I just was a bit lost. And my mom was just trying, and I'm a teenage girl, seeing my mom just really go through it, wanting a relationship with my biological father and not understanding why he didn't want to be a part of my life. So it's that. And so I poured everything into sport. Everything. It was everything to me. I was never the teenage girl whom did parties. I went to bed on a Thursday night because I had a game on Friday, right? I'm waiting at the door with my bag, waiting for my mom, let's go. So that just gives you a little bit of the motivation behind that really important time in my life.
How did you handle the grief of your stepdad? Again, you were only 9, so I'm sure you weren't even sure how you were processing, clearly through sports, but how were you able to move through that?
Poured it all onto the field, onto the track. And it's one of the reasons that I really, really push the importance of mental health is because I am also part of a culture whereby it wasn't something that you spoke about.
You never spoke about it.
You certainly weren't paying somebody to go and right. They call it, airing your dirty laundry. So it was a very hard time for me, But, I was dealing with the mental health part on one end, but I was thriving on the sports side, right? And that was able to kind of disguise really what was going on because I was, excelling. 15 years old, I made my first Olympic team.
Incredible.
In the sport of track and field. In 84, I was 9. The Olympics came to Los Angeles and my mom took me to the athlete parade. This is during a time when the athletes prior to the games would be paraded in the streets of the city so that the local community, they don't do that anymore. And I remember, I don't know what street it was here in Los Angeles. I remember holding my mom's hand and just seeing the athletes parade by. And that summer I watched the games for the first time. And I was in awe.
Manifesting.
I was yes, that needs to be me. I didn't know what sport. I needed to feel what they felt when they were about to cross that line. And maybe you've heard the story, but my mom had purchased a chalkboard for my room for my homework assignments. And that summer I wrote I was going to be an Olympic champion.
This is at
And
9 years old.
this was in 84. I was 9. And so I think pouring into the sport and the death of my stepfather and the decision for my biological father to not be a part of my life, it just kind of all like interwove. Knowing that my mom, who is from a small country, Belize, knowing that she came up to the US to create a better life for herself and for her kids, right? So you have like that bit of motivation as well. And I thrived in sports. So at the age of 16, 17, I felt something pulling me to the East Coast, like pulling me like maybe just away from everything here. And I was also going through that adolescent thing with daughter and mother, right? I'm like, I want to get away, right? And do my own thing. And I took a visit to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And I just fell in love, which is crazy because a lot of the track world just expected me to stay here in California. It's so strong in the sport.
Oh my gosh.
You know, you have USC and UCLA and Stanford. And when I made the decision to accept a basketball scholarship to the University of North Carolina, people were like, especially in the track world, like, what? Well, because I knew that any university that I attended was going to want me to run track.
Yes.
Right. But basketball, I had started later and I wanted to make sure that I was able to play. And University of North Carolina, the women's team at that point hadn't had a lot of winning success.
So you got there and won the national championship.
And my freshman year, right? I posted on my Instagram, I said, it's March Madness. We all love March Madness. Let me take you back.
Yeah.
You want to see something exciting? Type in 1994 buzzer beater and you will see and I just felt so blessed to be a part of that team.
It was incredible. Something in freshman year, see, when the national championship in basketball, when does track really start to take shape at UNC and getting ready for the Olympics?
It never really took any shape while I was there. You understand, my freshman year, we won the title. So we go deep in March. I mean, in every year I'm there, we go deep in March. And I never competed in indoor while in college.
Really?
Because we were always deep in March. So by the time I would get out to the track season, we were at district championships. I remember I was at Duke and it was the ACC championships. That was outdoor. And I false started in the 100 because I hadn't been in the blocks in however long. I had a much different body because I had like a basketball body. I had 15 extra pounds. I did not look like the 15-year-old who made the Olympic team at all. And so I dabbled. I like to say I dabbled in track. I think I was an All-American. I
love that. I'm sure you were. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes.
But it wasn't a thing. I was also under a basketball scholarship. So like, they were going to make sure they wrung that dry.
How great for you. Very few athletes at your level get to have that feeling. Okay, so you graduate, and is that when you put full focus on track?
Yes. I'll back up just for a second. My sophomore year, after we won the title, Carolina was seated in the West. So we came out here and we played Stanford in the Sweet 16 at Pauley Pavilion at UCLA. So I was excited because it was my first time playing in college in California, in Los Angeles. First time I'm coming back. And so there were some friends and some family and we were losing to Stanford. We were playing poorly. And I remember running into the locker room at halftime. We were down and just casually looking in the stands and seeing my father.
Oh,
I hadn't seen my father in however many years. And, you know, I couldn't stop or anything, but I acknowledged him. Played in the second half. We lost. So that was tough. But
hang on. You see him in the stands. What did that feel like?
I was just in shock. I mean, I had been so far removed trying to cope with that and which was put it behind me, not think about it, right? And then all of a sudden, like, he's there. And we lose. And I came out to acknowledge, you know, my friends that had come to the game and maybe see him, and I couldn't find him. And my father passed away in 2001, and I never got an opportunity to any of that. Yes.
Wait a minute. Okay, so he comes to the game, you lock eyes, you have all kinds of feelings. After the game, you don't find him and you never see him again.
No, never saw him again. And I found out years later that, you know, he had been collecting articles and making a scrapbook. And so it's a lot of unanswered questions.
You had a lot of grief early on in your life.
Yeah.
So you have all this bubbled up in you. So now that's two male figures in your life. Was anybody there to help you through this?
My mom was there to a point that I allowed her to be. There were coaches, but again, I am the type of athlete whereby if I have a coach, like I'm all in when it comes to that sport, right? So I wasn't coming to practice in tears.
And like they
right?
know.
No, I would manifest that all into I'm beating everybody in the sprints. And then, so they love that, right? And so they don't see any weakness in that. They don't see anything wrong with me or that.
So you masked your grief with discipline, hard work, guts, and that ability to tap in. Go time.
Yes. And so people say, well, how have you been able to cope, or how have you been able to push through hard times? And
you said, please.
Right? Like, I don't want to say like that's been my life, but I've learned how to cope. I've learned how to deal with it. And I am certainly not saying that that is the healthiest way. Right? Because as I'm older now, I know that it is not. But people ask, well, how? Well, this is how. Right. Yeah.
And clearly you were built to handle situations. Okay, let's jump. Your Sydney Olympics. You win five gold?
Yeah, five medals, 3 gold, 2 bronze.
That's incredible. How old are you at this point?
21, 22.
I mean, I have a 21-year-old. Like, I think about her right now.
I do.
And like, we both have kids around the same age, to reflect and think of where they are in their lives and the pressure that you were under in that. We know pressure is a privilege, but how were you able to navigate out that? I mean, you were the golden girl at the Olympics.
Yes, I was extremely focused. People can look at times from when I was 14 and 15 years old through that time, and you see like there's a natural progression of speed and agility and coordination. And so by the time I graduated from the University of North Carolina and decided I was done playing basketball, and I had so many friends growing up that ran age group track with me, ran high school track, did college track, and dabbled in professional, and then their careers fizzled or got injured. Well, I kind of got a break. I mean, it wasn't a physical break as I was doing basketball, but it was a break from the rigors of pounding on the track for 3 or 4 years. And so I think that definitely helped. And so I graduated and I decided I'm going to pick it back up, because my goal always was to be the fastest woman in the world, an Olympic champion. And
that's the greatest title of all time. Fastest woman in the world. I would wear that on a t-shirt and a hat for like ever. Like I might get it on a necklace, a big necklace. Like that is just.
But remember, I learned from Ira, my stepdad, humble pie.
Okay, we'll wear it on the inside of the house. I know, but it's just the coolest. I get it. I understand.
So I start training. I graduated. I start training full time, and success came my way. So very, no pun intended, came my way very fast. I was U.S. national champion in the 100 and 200 and qualified for the world championships.
That
was in Athens, and fastest woman in the world, won the 100 meters there.
What does that feel like? So for our listeners, because they're never going to know, like most won't, you get in those blocks. To me, that is the most terrifying. Well, first of all, for me, I still hear like, first call, 1,600 meter, and my heart stops. I'm like, oh God. You know, second call, you're starting to sweat a little bit. Like,
did you run pen relays?
I did do pen.
Were you in the paddock?
Yeah, in the paddock.
The
push. Did you ever run? It was the pen relays. They used to have the nudes versus the prudes. They had to run really late at night. Of course, you weren't in that. You were a real runner.
Remember that one? That's a different podcast.
A different one. We'll do that one next. Okay. So back to let's get serious with our question.
What'd you say? The nudes?
The nudes versus the prude. Let's just say I wasn't a prude, Marion. That's for another day. Okay? There's some tequila involved and you run fast.
I'm going to have to Google that one later.
Please don't. Okay, back to real stuff. You're getting in the blocks. Yeah. What are you saying to yourself? Because that start is so important. Every time I watch a sprinter race, I get so nervous.
It's just like anything. I mean, we practice it. We practice it. I used to think of it like this. You want to let out all of the negative stuff right before you ask so much of your space, of the oxygen, because you're going to like use it to its like max. So you blow out in the last moment in the blocks. Like you'll see a lot of sprinters, and I don't know if this is how they think of it, but I would remember like deep breath out and all the crap, all the negative thinking, all of the overthinking, like everything. I allow it to all come out, and I take in all new good stuff, because that's what's going to get me to the finish line. All the new. So it's a very methodical moment where it's Right. And you tune everything out, right? I would travel all around the world in races and in some countries where they're not as respectful to women while they're in the blocks. It's a tangent that I'm going to go down for a second, but there are some countries where the most sold out part of the stadium is behind the blocks. Gross, right?
Gross. Come on.
I was probably one of the few female athletes that wouldn't wear what's called the briefs.
Yeah. We never wore briefs. I was before you. We wore our shorts like down to our, we wore baggy running shorts.
And you want to know why I never wore the briefs? Because I always thought that if it was helping you to run faster, then the men would also be in them.
Great call.
So why are the women wearing it?
It's a great
right?
call.
And why am I digging it out of my bottom?
Yeah.
Right at the finish line.
Yes.
Like I just never
By
understood.
the way, the briefs came out my senior year. So I graduated in 92. So just before that, it was just the normal shorts.
Yeah.
And we wore them big and baggy, which was not a great look either. But that's such a good point. If it was, the men would be rocking.
Yeah. So even to this day, I'm like, I don't get it.
Interesting.
And I don't remember any other in the professional realm, any other women wearing the short tights like I do. And anyway, so that's a whole other story. But let's get back to the blocks.
Yeah. So anyway, what I like about the breathing for anybody listening, you could use that in life with anything. What a beautiful, simple. Right out with the bad, in with the new, and it's go time.
I do it now before interviews.
Yeah.
I do it now before I train clients. Like before I walk into my daughter's room.
Well, yeah, anybody with teenage daughters.
I shared with you, I have a 15-year-old daughter. If you're hearing this, you know what I'm talking about. I can do this. Oh my goodness.
I mean, never been more important than if you have a teenage daughter.
So now you understand. And then you hear the starter say, take your marks and, you raise your hips and all your weight is on your fingertips and just
Gun
go.
goes off.
Anyways, but
what does it feel like to run that fast?
It feels like just like one breath. Like it goes by that fast. It feels like I don't remember breathing. You don't remember the steps. It happens that fast.
So for you, just hearing you talk about this and light up, and how have you replaced that? Any runner knows, or probably any athlete, but to be able to tap into that emotion, the high and the low, the championship spirit, like how do you fill that void?
It's been very hard. I so understand boxers who retire and they come back. I feel like if I was to be given 1 year to prepare, right, that I could. It's not true, right? But is there something in here that if I have no distractions, if I can just train, right? Like I could be competitive. But then everything down here below the head.
It's saying we've done this.
Hell no. That's what it's saying.
But it's something mentally. We just had Lindsey Vaughn on the Coop, and she had retired.
Yeah.
And look at now. She just set a world record. She's back competing.
Yeah, and I've dabbled in so many, like I tried the distance stuff. That's not working. I don't understand how y'all do it. I'll run a 5K. I'll do 3 or 4 miles like you do now. But really at the 4 or 5 mile point, what the hell do you think about anymore? There's only so many podcasts, as great as this one is. There's only so many that I can listen to. There's only so many incredible playlists. It just becomes boring.
It does. Listen, I'm so with you. At 30 minutes now, my knees start hurting. I'm like, I can do a solid 30.
People all the time, are you going to do a marathon? Hell no, I'm not going to do a marathon. How about a 10K? Hell no, I'm not going to do a 10K. Don't ask me that. And so to just get back to your question, I'm still searching for something to fill the void. I've taken on this year attempting to do a triathlon.
Which are going to be unbelievable.
I'm going to do well. Because I have so much respect for triathletes.
Me too. That transition we were talking from the bike to the run is the worst thing ever.
It is intense. It's 3 sports. It's actually 4 disciplines. It's the bike, it's the swim, it's the cycling, and it's the nutrition. Right? But also I turned 50 this year.
Welcome to the club, the 5th level.
It's a special club, I hear.
I love it. The best is yet to come.
I needed something.
Yeah.
I needed to get out of my comfort zone. Because for 10 plus years, more than that, I've just been in like a comfortable place. And I am a believer that especially at 49, 50, every year, you have to find something physical that gets you out of your comfort zone.
You have to.
I think Because as you get older, I mean, the body changes. And if you don't make it do something that it would normally,
You're not pushing
you're
it.
just,
What's the challenge?
yeah.
By the way, how funny. You came on set today to my show, Access Daily. I was dressed as Glinda the Good Witch, which you were
Yes,
like,
I saw
my friend's a
that.
lunatic. And you heard me talking. I just started creatine.
Yeah.
So is that good?
So
But you're like, I ate it in a
So
gummy.
good.
And you
So-
said, are you sure?
There's been a myth for decades that creatine's gonna bulk
you
you
up
up
and, like, yeah.
you're gonna look like Arnold Schwartz. It's a myth. It's one of the best nutritional supplements that you can take, not only to prevent bone loss and to build strength, but also the data now says that it really helps and aids in your cognitive stuff. But you said that you're taking it in the gummy form. And I will tell you that I've never heard of it in the gummy form.
I got it on
And
Instagram.
so we joked about it today that, I don't know what type of gummy it form. I only know one type of gummy. Well, two, you have the Haribo gummies and you have another type of gummy.
Marion looked
So
at
you
me.
better check your package.
She looked at me like, friend, listen, I don't know. You keep doing you. I'm like, this interview, we're going to get wild,
Yeah.
Marion.
And you had a margarita
I
today.
did a margarita today. I was like, oh,
I
Lord.
was like, I like this show.
Because
I need
here
to
we
come
go.
back here more often. But no, I think all the data says that like women should be taking creatine consistently.
How do you feel about turning 50?
I'm excited about it because I want to see what it's all cracked up to be. Right? Like I'm active. I love that. I eat well. I understand how important nutrition is and all of that. I'm working on the stressors in my life,
Yes.
which is a thing too that you have to learn how
What
to
are your
manage.
big stressors these days?
My kids.
Yeah.
I don't know. My mom is beautiful at 70 plus. And I think, at 50 plus, I'm not doing too bad. But you look at all these gray hairs in this head and I know where it's from.
I say I've heard all these wrinkles. This is called my 3 kids. Yeah.
I mean, that to me, I have handled a lot of stuff in my life. But my kids and their health and their happiness and them finding who they are in this hard world is a stress for mama.
Did you always want to be a mom?
Yes. Yes. I always knew that I could give up it all just to be mom. It was nice that I could balance some of it, but I 1000% understand how mothers sacrifice for their kids.
Just like your mom did.
No doubt. Like I could order my favorite thing at my favorite restaurant. And if the 15-year-old daughter sees it and wants it, here, you could have it.
Mhm.
And I don't know, before I had kids, I was going to fight for some good lasagna.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, here.
How would
And
your kids describe you?
They would probably say I'm outdated. I think that they would describe me as I'm caring. I am not a helicopter parent, but I want to be in the know so that I can help. And I think sometimes, at that age, it's misinterpreted as being too much. But really, the more that I know, the more that I could help.
And do they think it's cool that you're an Olympian, that you're a gold medal Olympian, or they?
That answer is no.
To me, that means you're
Yeah.
doing it all right.
I hope that's good. That's
And
good. But
one thing I love that as you and I are getting to know one another, I love how everything you overcome, you sort of take it to the next level. So let's go back after Sydney. You're in full glory, top of the world, USA's golden child. What happens next?
Can you curse on
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Shit hit the fan.
Yeah, shit hit
Let's
the
call
fan.
it. So you have to understand during that time, and like success came my way very fast. A lot of money, a lot of fame, and a lot of yes people surrounded me and that I allowed to surround me. These are people, if you're unsure of that term, people who would just say yes, anything you said, pat you on the back. Yes, that's a great decision. Or yes, this, right? And you start to, without any grounding or keeping yourself close to like a grounding community, like a close family, right? You can see where you can get what I call caught in the wave.
Yes.
Like it takes you further and further out from the reality of the shore.
Absolutely.
And that's, I can absolutely point to that happening to me during that time. And so I surrounded myself and I was distant from my family,
Yeah.
my mom, because my mom would have given it to me straight.
Yeah.
What the hell? What decision? Because I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm making a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
And it also is just part of the culture.
yeah. And so I had a coach and I had a manager, I had a husband at the time. And like, I knew that I wanted to be the best. And I knew that I had God-given talent that was going to get me there. But you have to also understand during that time, when you compete at that level, like there is an absolute need to make sure that like all of your levels are healthy and your vitamins and everything, right? So of course I had all the testing, I had doctors, and I couldn't just walk into a GNC, right? Because during that time, a lot of things were tainted. You didn't know what was in it, right? And we were being drug tested every other week. So we hired a company. Like I hired a company. We, as in my team, I was footing the bill to create supplements specifically for me that I knew weren't tainted. I knew were clean, all of that. And I also then just relied on everybody around me. They knew that I believed in a drug-free sport. I knew that I didn't need anything. And what I was given, I would take. I trusted. I mean, yes, you have to be careful and all that.
But it's your team. You're also focused on other things. That's their job to bring you what, yes.
So I'm taking supplements, and this was around the time of the 2000 games, taking supplements, taking what they've told me. Nothing is any red flags. I'm the most tested athlete in the world. Everything is clean. And 2000 happens and an incredible performance and all of that. And also during that time, Kit, there was a lot of news about certain athletes and taking performance enhancing drugs and getting caught. And I saw it all in the news. But again, I was confident that the company that I had hired and what I was taking was fine, right? Again, I hadn't tested positive. And so fast forward a few months, I was asked by federal investigators to come in and talk to them. All of the top athletes around the world were, right? About a particular company that I had worked with that had been in the news for providing these supplements. So again, I was confident.
Yeah.
Right. And so my attorneys, anything that you need to share with us? No. Right. Or do you want to go and talk with them? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I traveled to San Francisco and I sat down in front of federal investigators and they started asking me general questions like, have you heard of this? Yeah, I've heard about it in the news. Have you seen this? And they start a lot of questions until the point they started to become more direct, a little more aggressive. And I even remember my attorneys like calling a timeout and saying, hey, like, let's go outside, let's talk. And like getting a sense that I potentially was more being targeted by them. Like they thought that I was lying. So we get to the end of this interview and I don't even remember how long it was, like an hour, 2 hours. One of them reaches down into their bag and they pull out something in a little Ziploc bag and they kind of like push it across the table. And I'm not being just dramatic in describing this. Like this was the room. It was a conference room. There was like 3 of them and there was 3, like we're in front of them. And immediately when he sets it, kind of slams it on the table, I look at the little vial of liquid and it looks like something similar that I had taken, but I didn't know. And he pushes it across the table. He says, have you ever seen this? And so I look at it and in a moment, I'm thinking to myself, kind of like an oh shit moment, like, if I acknowledge that, yes, this is something that I've been given, I've taken, right? And even though like I was told it was one thing and they think it's another, if I admit to them that I had taken it, like what would that consequence be? I thought about that 9-year-old girl writing on her chalkboard like an Olympic champion, and everything up until that point would potentially be questioned, right? And my reputation, like all of that.
All your hard work,
like
your dedication. Yeah.
And so I told them, the moment I'm making now sound a little more dramatic. It wasn't that long. Like in that moment, 30 seconds, maybe if that, I said, I don't know what that is. I've never taken that, right? Well, at that point, they were pretty much fed up with me. So I left there, not admitting to even to my attorneys that I knew what that was. I had at least taken it. I had been given it, and it's not what they said it was, right? A few years pass, and I'm holding on to this.
When you leave that meeting, do you take your deep breath? Are you like, okay, we dodged that? Or like sort of what's going to happen next?
I took a deep breath thinking, well, even though I had taken it, like I'd still never tested positive.
Yeah.
Right? And so, hey, maybe this is something that I can just,
yeah.
The problem with what happened was prior to that meeting, because I believed I had nothing to hide, the federal investigators had given to my attorneys for me to sign what's called a Queen for a Day letter. So a Queen for a Day letter, and they still have it maybe under the name of something else, but you sign it. And in essence, you're saying that you will tell the whole truth. And no matter what is the truth, we won't come back and if you killed somebody or if you lied, you can't be prosecuted. And I signed that letter, like believing that I had nothing to hide. And so that's what I did wrong is I lied to federal investigators after signing that Queen for a Day letter. So a few years go by, I'm still competing, right? But by that point, my first child was born in 2003. And I can remember, like, I'm a parent now, and, you're teaching, you're parenting, and you're saying, hey, like, if you do something wrong, I need for you to come and tell me. Right. And there are going to be consequences. Right. But the quicker you tell me and we deal with it, we can move on. And then I'm turning around in every interview, every race I'm running in, the post race interview is, what do you think about these athletes and performance enhancing drugs and what's happening in the news? And I'm just like, I've never taken a performance enhancing drug and I never will. And then I go home and I'm like the biggest hypocrite. And that became heavier and heavier and heavier.
And how wild doing those interviews that you used to watch with your dad with the post-game interviews. And he said, we got to learn from this.
It's like such a powerful analogy there. So again, fast forward a few years and the weight of it all was so heavy. I had two kids by then. And I had just been to a point where like I needed to stop this. Like you talk stresses, you talk pressure, and I'm still winning races and I'm all this, but it's just different because I know that.
Did it consume you? Like, would you be up at night, those middle of the night thoughts that get you when you want to fix something? How prevalent was it in your mind?
I mean, it was big.
It was something in there. It was heavy in there.
And so in 2007, it just was enough. So I shared with my attorneys that we're just going to put it out there that I'm going to contact federal investigators and we're just going to say it and we're going to deal with the consequences and they're going to be severe. And they were.
Okay, we're going to get to that. Yeah. But wait, what did your team say when you told them you were doing this?
So by that point, I had already, for a number of years, distanced myself from that particular coach and the people whom I was training with.
You weeded the garden.
Yeah, like I needed to be done. And so I didn't have that like hanging over me. It was just like I'd have to tell my mom, and which was the hardest thing ever.
What'd your mom say?
I don't remember the exact moment, but I just know there were tears. There was sadness that a lot of it could have been prevented.
She had to be proud of you, though, for owning up at the end. And that's the hard stuff.
And I knew that everything was going to be okay. It was after I was sentenced and I came out of the courtroom, like all these dramatic steps there in New York. And there were thousands of cameras. And most people thought I was just going to be like escorted right to the car. And I thought, nope, this is my moment to do what I can to make it right and to apologize to the world. And I did that. And the moment that I knew that it was all going to be okay was having my mom behind me with her hand on my shoulder. Right. And occasionally when those images will pop up even now, like it brings tears to my eyes. But it was a moment that I knew that I was going to be okay, that I was not defined by my sport, and it's something that I tell a lot of athletes now, like who are you?
Yeah.
I'm a track and field star. Okay. So what if there's no track and field? Like, who are you? And so in that moment, I knew everything was going to be okay because my mama knew everything was going to be okay.
What a lesson.
Yeah.
And you'd already picked yourself up numerous times again.
Yeah.
Getting something else that you're handling. Okay. What is your sentence? What do you get sentenced to?
Yeah. When I pled guilty, we were confident, myself, my attorneys, that the court would see that no good could come out of me serving any prison time. A lot more good would come out of me teaching young athletes, like mentoring, coaching, and even the court recommended, because they always give a recommendation to the judge after they investigate the whole charge. So the court recommended to the judge a couple of years of probation. Ultimately, the judge, we know, in any case, can do whatever they want. But we were very confident going into that day that I would not be sentenced to any prison time. And so 3+ hours later, and even the judge admitted that I was going to be used, like he was setting a precedent, right? That I was going to be used as a lesson to other athletes that you cannot do this in the good name of sport. And he said 6 months. Well, I didn't hear that at all. So at the end of the sentencing, I had to look at my attorneys and I said, what did I had no history, anybody in my family. I never knew anybody. I used to watch the lockup, 24-hour lockup. That was the extent of anything I knew about prison. And by that point, I had 2 boys. I had
How old were they?
Little boys, maybe 1 and 4, 1 and 5.
And you get 6 months sentence. Okay, total like frivolous random, but like I've only seen Orange is the New Black. Like, what is prison like? Like, was it?
No, I originally was sentenced to a federal prison.
A federal prison?
Federal, like, and I'm not talking a joke like a Martha Stewart type.
Like, give me the country club prison.
Right. This was not it. So he sentenced me to a prison in Texas, but then it was changed last minute because that particular prison didn't have enough like security for a high profile inmate. I guess that's what I was. So he then changed and sent me to a prison in Fort Worth, Texas, which after research is probably one of the hardest federal prisons for women in the country. I'm just like, when can I start? When can I be done? This is just crazy. And deciding on a date to turn myself in and walking in is the craziest thing. So this particular prison had 2 sides to it. There's one called the camp side. The camp side is for mild offenders, people who fudge on their taxes. And then you have across the street behind the barbed wire fence, like I call it the real prisoners.
We want to be on the campsite.
So I was pleased. I'm on the campsite.
Okay.
And you walk in and you walk past the TV room and like my story is on the news. It's crazy.
That is
right?
wild.
But I'm also the type of person, like I adapt well in any, I hate to say it, but in any situation, right? Like I found out how it works in there. And it's all based off of, again, money, but they don't deal in money. They deal in commissary. Right. So like every month there was enough for me to get food and if I need sweat, little things. But you quickly realize that not everybody there has that type of support. And the way that they earn a living or am able to buy chips and sanitary products and sweats or whatever is they do services for other inmates. Okay. So I quickly start to understand this.
Are you well liked from the moment you arrive?
I don't know, well liked, but I get along with everybody. Okay. So I quickly realized that I know how to cope with stress one way, and that is exercise. Right. And so I made sure with my commissary, I bought a number of like sweat outfits when I work out. Well, the issue with that is that they have a limited amount of washers and dryers there for us to use. And theft is a real thing. So what you do is you hire another inmate who doesn't get money on their commissary. Like that's their job and they will wash clothes because you literally have to stand there at the washer and dryer or somebody will steal your stuff. Somebody said that cool, I'm going to pay you in commissary. So a couple of weeks, I start to realize that my workout stuff starts like to disappear. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Like and you have to be very tiptoeish how you confront people. Like you don't do it in front of everybody. You're not loud about it. So I realized that most likely either she was stealing it or whatever. I'm not going to blame anybody, but I got to figure out a way. So I find a space where it's just she and I say, so-and-so, I think I'm going to start to do my own laundry. Well, she takes that very personal. Right. And I understand why, like you're taking away money from her. Right. Like she can't go and buy whatever like I can and becomes upset. And there's an altercation.
Like a fight?
Wait,
do you like rumble? Like,
yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Who am I? Right. Like, no, but I'm trying. And we're in a room and I'm trying to get out. And so I run out to the guard. Anyways, the whole point of that is that anytime there's an altercation, you are taken to the SHU. The SHU is solitary confinement on the other side.
Okay.
So we're escorted over there, and it's her word versus my word. And in that 49 days in solitary confinement, that's how long I stayed there.
What?
It was determined like, hey, it was her word, her word. So I was in solitary for 49 days in Carswell, Texas.
How did you survive that?
Yeah. Some days were the darkest ever, but I survived thinking back on my mom's hand on my shoulder.
Coming out of the court.
Yeah. I survived knowing everything she sacrificed for my brother and I. I survived knowing that the sport that I was in didn't define who I was, right? Like I have this light about me that I've been told, or even the connection that I've made with however many people that I've met around the world that had nothing to do with sport. Like it's just something that's innate in me that has this ability to connect. So you could stay in this dark place, or you can make plans about tomorrow and next week and next year and what your life is going to look like without sport. And when you're in solitary, you're supposed to get 1 hour of recreation time. So you're locked up 23 out of 24 hours. But because it was summertime in Texas, there were many days I was locked. There was no hour outside at all. I left there in the best shape of my life, I'll tell you. But I also left there knowing that if I could get through this, the world has not seen the end of me. So it was a blessing. And I tell people like, what? Wait, like solitary was a blessing? Yes, because in no other space do I think that I would have been, again, no pun intended, slowed down enough to reflect on who I was, why I made certain choices, but more important, like what type of life do you want to have for your kids and all that?
Where you're going next.
I needed that. I literally needed that quiet time, and I wouldn't have wished it on my enemy. But I'm glad. Do I have regrets? Sure, right? But I don't spend. I'm happy with where I am now, and it's because of what I've been through.
Do you keep in touch with anybody from prison?
I do have a few friends. Let me tell
Women
you,
are such connectors.
I found some of the most like brilliant women in there, strong women in there. And again, there are some that no, you don't want to meet.
Yeah.
But there were many who, similar to me, have blanked up once or twice. Right. And it doesn't define that like they're not bad people.
No.
They just made a poor choice. And so when people are so judgmental and critical about people in the system, like pause.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, are you okay with the world knowing everything you did when you were 21, 22, 20? Are you good?
Yeah.
With like an open book?
Yeah.
Right? Because if your answer is yes, then okay. But most people couldn't say that.
Nope.
Right. So, and I got to know them. I got to know some of their families. So yes, there are a few that I
love hearing
will
that.
still keep in contact that have been out now and are very successful.
First of all,
Yeah.
when's the movie on your life coming out? And who's playing you? Who's going to play you, Marion?
That is so
Your
interesting that you're
Well, you're telling your story, and there's so much that I've known about you, but not known, and it's just your light and your spirit. You haven't even hit your stride yet. The world's fastest woman has not even hit her stride yet. Welcome to the 50s. You are about to fly.
Yeah.
This is good.
You know, I'm grateful for the bumps.
Yeah.
I am grateful for a supportive and loving mother who is hard and strong and believes that it's like her babies can do amazing things.
Well, that's you now as a mom, right?
Hi.
That's fast forward.
Yeah, and I am so hopeful, right? I sit here in front of you with an enormous amount of hope that my space on this planet is like there's endless possibilities because like really my priorities are so in check now. They're not like no 20 to 30-year-olds priorities really are in check.
No.
I'm just telling you, right? You might think they are. But when you get to a place where you realize like, really, we should be here on this planet to help others live better, longer, whatever that is. Once you like have joy in that, it's just such a satisfying feeling, right? Yeah, like success looks differently to a lot of people. But once you get to a place when success looks like, how many people can you positively impact? And I'm impacting them by my story. So how can I not be, in essence, grateful for my story? I found an audience of people who are like, yeah, failure isn't forever.
Yeah.
And she is a shining, living example of it.
Failure does not have to define you or anybody stuck in that. Who's your dream guest on the podcast?
I grew up watching Mike Tyson. I don't want to say like pick his brain. Like I don't want to do that. But I find that there are many similarities in him and I, in that like there's a deeper Mike Tyson than what the world knows. I don't know if I could have the ability to like touch on that with him. I just think that there's a part of him that people don't understand, and there's a part of it that people don't understand about me. And so like there is this thing that I'm very like when I talk about him,
Yeah.
or even in the fight a few months back, I feel I take it very personal.
Yeah.
And
What do
so
people get wrong about you?
I don't think people get wrong. I just don't think I have opened up enough in my world for people just to really see how I attack life, because I've kept it all bottled in, because for so many years I needed to, because that was the secret sauce, right? Like, why am I going to tell my competitors that?
Yeah.
Right. And so because of that, like I have struggled, and I'm learning to like open up about how I approach anxiety and stress, and how I am able to, put on the armor and deal with stuff.
That's going to be your legacy.
Yeah.
This is your back nine. This is your next chapter.
And
how cool is that?
it is. And that's why I kind of embrace social media a little bit in that, like, I still don't understand how you just like show all your life to everybody.
It's a lot.
And I'm sure there's an audience for it. Like my team of people, there's an audience for it. Like, no, thanks.
Okay, here we go. Let's get random.
Yeah.
Something people would be surprised to know about you.
I have a fear of compound fractures.
Of what?
Compound fractures, like your bone coming out.
Okay.
Right? I can't watch injuries in sport.
I can't either.
Like it makes me sick
When
to
they
my
slow
stomach.
it down.
I'm like, stop.
Stop.
Right? So
That's a good one.
That's bad. I mean, and it's really bad.
Yeah. First celebrity crush.
First and current. Tracy Chapman. Today, I even listened to her on the show today. I was listening. She did a recent NPR interview, and she's, very quiet. Like she hasn't been on tour in decades. Like I'm just waiting. Like, and she doesn't give a lot of interviews, and she's just so brilliant. And she gave an NPR interview a couple months back about like the current political climate. And she's just so beautiful,
effortlessly
and
cool,
yes.
and just so talented.
So yes.
That's a good one. Thank you so much for coming on
You're
the Coop.
welcome.
Buckle up. I cannot wait to see what you do next. I'm following you on social media, and I'm going to follow everything you do. Good luck on the podcast.
Thank you.
Think of everything you've already accomplished. You haven't even hit your stride. I love thinking about that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I know I'm right. All right. Thank you, my love.
You're welcome.
Go
You're
Heels.
welcome. Go Heels.
Wow. I know I shouldn't say wow after every interview, Harper, but she's unbelievable.
Something I felt when I first saw her was how bright she is.
That light.
She's got bright eyes. She's got bright energy. Her skin looks incredible, but she just exudes light. And it was so interesting. At the end of the interview, she spoke about that light. She knows she has that light in her. And literally one of the first notes I took was she's just a bright, incredible light.
It's easy to say that about somebody that maybe has just, gone through life with no ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
I am so impressed and so moved by people that have had to come back from something, that have overcome something massive. Those are the real champions that I gravitate and want to learn from. And she is the epitome of that. Okay, first of all, how about her childhood?
Well, what was so sweet is what she first said is when she was chosen for her brother's team, right? It was that moment that she was like, oh, I can do this.
The confidence.
I can do
The
this
confidence
really
of
well.
that was always in her. What about her writing on her chalkboard at 9 years old?
Manifesting.
Manifesting. I'm going to be an Olympic champion.
And knowing that when she saw Olympians for the first time in the parade, that she said, I want to feel what they feel when they cross that finish line. She knew from an age that most 9-year-olds really wouldn't know that that's what they're meant to do, but she knew it was in her.
She knew it was in her. I love when she was talking about being in the blocks and what she does with the breathing out with all negative energy, any negative thought.
To make space.
To make space.
To make space for the finish line.
And then you breathe in only good air. Every single person listening or watching this right now, can take that advice in their life. She even said she does it for a teenage daughter.
Totally. Going in her room. She's like, I'm not sure who we were talking about that earlier before even the interview. She's like, I'm not sure what I'm walking into. We all know this with teenage girls, but I really actually have thought about it. I love that you guys spent time talking about the blocks, because I feel like when I look at athletes, and it is sort of funny, track and field really comes around every 4 years. It's on all the time for the athletes that are in it. But for those of us who maybe aren't in track and field or get to see it all the time, it's a once every 4 years, you see the best of the best. And I do feel like whenever you're looking at them in those blocks, I'm like, how do they not go too early? I mean, know, how do you not go too early? I feel like I just would
it's
jump.
like you would jump or you would go. It's that patient, is that mindset. I think my favorite part, reflecting on the whole interview as I'm sitting right now with you, she's not bitter, Harper. She was made an example of. She turned herself in when the whole doping scandal and all of that. But then she was made an example, and she had to go to prison. And sitting here in this chair
in solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement for, was it 49 days? But there's no bitterness. And that's another quality I look for in people. No victim mentality, no bitterness, the ability to really move forward with your life. What are you learning from this, and what are you doing to go forward?
Well, and as she said, she doesn't wish that time to stop for anybody, especially in a situation that she was in, which again, like just going back to the fact, what is staggering to me is she was the most highly tested athlete in the world, never tested positive.
Yeah.
So within her and becoming a mom, she had that moment to say, I want to live a life that I'm proud of from start to finish, from inside, from the outside. I've got these babies and I'm trying to teach them how it is to be in the world, and I got to show up. And she had to leave her very, very young children for 6 months.
I love that she's owning everything.
And not bitter, as you said.
And not bitter, and not looking back, and now so energized for her next chapter, which is the whole reason we started the Coop.
Correct. But one moment can we go back to? The moment on the basketball court where she saw her dad.
Wow. I didn't see that coming.
No.
She was telling that.
No.
And I never asked her.
That just like hurts my heart.
Yes.
Just thinking about that for her, wanting to repair that relationship, find the relationship, repair it in some way, not necessarily that she needed to repair, but for the two of them, and then to not see him again. And
the no closure, and to kind of want that relationship, never have it, see him, and then knowing after he passed away that he's kept all these scrapbooks and mementos, the way she's had to live with that and move forward. She had a lot of grief early on in her life that she had to deal with, losing her stepdad.
Yeah.
And
can you imagine a better coach to have in the world on life?
No.
In athletics, in perspective. And I mean, she has found a whole new track that is truly benefiting so many people. And as she said, it's hard to sometimes tell your own story. She told it so beautifully, and she tells it in such a raw, clear way. But now she gets to help people tell their story.
And how great that we were laughing the whole time, but the fastest woman in the world hasn't even hit her stride. And I just think how cool. She's about to turn 50 in October.
Yeah.
And she is just going to fly. You can feel it.
Oh,
and her babies are getting older.
Oh,
She has been through so much. She is in it. Off camera, we got into menopause. She's already worried about my creatine gummy. So I'm trying to get her on this.
Okay, wait, sorry. Prudes versus nudes. Can we please?
There was a race at the Penn Relay.
Start at the beginning.
Late night, you go there, and there's this. You would go drink tequila. All these teams would meet up.
Okay, so this is like is this sort of like a what's that like acapella thing that movie?
Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, is this like Pitch Perfect but for track, and you all meet in some empty pool?
But only certain people. You go midnight at the track, and there's tequila, and it's the nudes versus the prudes, and you run relay races with all the different schools. Let's just say I won the prude. You run fast.
You run fast. And is it like tequila like every 100 meters?
Every lap you do a shot. Yes. Wow. Runners are hold. Yeah. Woo, woo, woo.
Prudes versus the nudes. And was there any other sports that did this?
There was no other sports there. How great that there was no cameras, there was no cell phones.
As Marion was saying,
was just fun and great.
Yeah, and Prudes versus Nudes, literally in my mind, could have been like you and 3 other people, but
it really wasn't that. It was great.
Wait, that is amazing.
But she was so wonderful, just so open and great. You and I were riveted to everything she was saying.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable story we've known for years. To hear her tell it in just such a clear, raw, honest, and bright way. Honestly, it was striking.
So thank you, Marion Jones, for sharing your story with us. And again, the whole Coop is watching what you do next. Go get them. All right, y'all. Hope you like that episode. We'll see you next time.